Well, hello, everyone. We're on Global Talk Radio. This is the Republic Radio Show. And tonight, my guest is Cliff High of the WebBot Project. How you doing, Cliff?
Doing pretty good.
All right. Well, the WebBot's inception, I know it started out as a market forecaster. Can you let our callers know a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually started working on it as a result of some discoveries I'd made in developing software for a mega-large software agent or company. And I decided that we were storing data in a screwy way, and so I figured out another way to store data, and it led to another insight. And that led to examining how language was showing up on the Internet. And so I decided, well, simultaneously, around 1997, it dawned on me that the stock market had no basis at all in reality and was, in fact, entirely driven by emotion, not by any concept of, the technicals, fundamentals. Apparently, none of it made any difference whatsoever. It was entirely emotionally driven. And since I was in the process of taking emotion, quantifying it, qualifying it, and attaching it to words, I thought, well, geez, I could turn this software I was developing, which I was pursuing anyway, towards predicting emotional values around stocks. So that basically the idea was I could sort of read all the chatter that was going on all the Internet boards in the late 90s and figure out where the general trend line was for emotions around a stock and either go and buy or sell ahead of that particular thing. I actually had very little intention of actually doing the buying and selling. I was going to sell the software itself so others could do it. But because it was just an intriguing project, it led me to that point. Then I discovered in 1997 that there was a whole lot of strange chatter around Sun, meaning the big scary ball in the sky, rather than Stanford University Network, which is what I was originally hunting for.
Right, the Sun, yeah.
Yeah. And
how does it work? I know there's something has to do with the temporal markers and the archetypes in the words.
Yeah, what I basically do is this. I've got a list of about 300,000 or 400,000 forum.
And that's your lexicon, correct?
No. The lexicon is just a list of individual words. I get a list from Oxford University dictionary group before they ever actually put their dictionary online. A friend of mine was working there as an engineer, and I asked him to just split off all of the words. I didn't want any of the definitions. I just wanted the list of words. So I had 300,000 or more than 300,000 English words, A to Z. And that's the lexicon. And on each one of those words is an attachment to an array, and the array encodes in various different dimensions. It's a multi-dimensional array, 8 by 8 by 10. And it encodes emotional values about that particular word. And that's what the lexicon is. And it's grown. It's probably, last time I looked, it was like 1.4 million words. Not all English anymore. In fact, a wide variety of languages. We haven't in any way, shape, or form gotten comprehensive on any other language other than English. We'd have to have several 100,000 words from each language, and we just don't. And some of them we have the most common 300 or 30,000, or the most common 11,000, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, there's just a whole lot of chatter and languages going on out there. So a lot of work.
So you're picking up the linguistics.
Yeah, we have a seed list of 300,000 forum that are worldwide, and we read these based on a list of words that we've been picking up, and around each word we'll read about 2,048 bytes either side of that hit on our word, and that forms a read, and we might have 100 million of those in any given data run. And from that, we boil everything down in a thick, syrupy mass until we end up with these archetypes. And for instance, archetypes are very easy to figure out. For instance, if there's a conversation on the net and it's about a car, well, we can put a tick mark next to our archetype for transportation. Or if it was about a garden, we can put a tick mark for both hobby and for food, that kind of thing.
Right.
So the archetypes are relatively easy to come by, and that's the highest level of resolution, if you will, our largest aggregate of data. And from there we have supporting aspect and attributes that go down some number of layers, sometimes 40 and 50,000 layers, depending on which particular word you're dealing with.
That's amazing. So there's really a lot of information that you go through.
Oh, tons and tons and tons. It drives you crazy.
Right.
There's 200 plus, actually 300 plus executable programs now. So, where you're firing off this executable, you got the servers running these others in the background, data pouring into SQL Server tables that are firing integrity checks and triggers and all different other kinds of things.
Wow.
Just a hotbed of activity. In fact, the little server closet, our server garden, it's too small to be a server farm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, but boy, it puts out some heat.
And you guys got some incredible history with some pretty profound predictions.
It's been a little screwy, but yeah, we do have a decent track record now. Better than chance, or better than what academic science would say chance would allow. When we're right, sometimes we're just absolutely spectacularly right in terms of getting all the linguistics. Probably our tightest fit was for the Northeast power outage, which we had for 3 weeks before it actually occurred, and we had details that described the train yard environment in which the initial cause of the accident would occur, and then the ripple effect, how long it would last, and all of this, and even the fact that everybody would think it was terrorism, but it wasn't, or it would be labeled that it wasn't. So that was a very spectacular hit. Some others are accurate, but there's always that aspect of, well, how accurate? If we got 60% of the words showing up ahead of the event, was that good enough? In some cases, the events themselves are so outlandish, like predicting the Chinese earthquake 36 hours before it occurs, and stating that within the earthquake we're going to get a series of lexical structures that would come out related to interrupted wedding. And we didn't have the interrupted wedding, except we had it. It occurred on the day of Jenna Bush's wedding, and we thought, because they interrupted the wedding at Jenna Bush's place to have a bunch of the federal fellows go running off to their agencies because they knew the Chinese had been severely hit, and that this required, the federal government at least to look at it. So the Jenna Bush wedding was interrupted, but that really wasn't the end of it. 2 weeks later, globally, there were huge picture arrays coming out on Reuters and AP and some of the other news sites of a chapel that had been destroyed in the quake region, and all these brides and grooms in their torn wedding outfits crawling out of the debris.
In the rubble.
Correct.
Right, yeah, I remember that.
And we had,
everything just came together so perfectly for that. It just made sense.
Yes, exactly. So you could tell, for instance, that we had indeed gotten the linguistics correct for that ahead of time. And some of the other stuff is a little vague, and it's kind of hard to say that, well, we were accurate. Take, for instance, our global coastal phenomena that we're in right at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we said that this would start that the languages start showing up early this year.
And new lands, correct?
Well, no, that's actually just one of the subsets of it. That's just one of the small pieces.
Gotcha.
So far, we've got almost, 175 individual lexical structures that have actually occurred and shown up in the press. So the new lands being one of them. The Tonga issue, the Alaska issue, both cases new land popping up. We've had other global coastal phenomena showing up relating to different species. For instance, oysters have just stopped spawning, and this is like the fourth year up here that we've had oysters in a natural environment with virtually no spawn levels. So it's as though the species is dying out.
Right.
And there's all of these issues related to the phenomena, and we're getting the linguistics there, but it's not so spectacular an event as the Chinese quake. Therefore, it's easy for people that want to say, they don't really have anything going there, to say that we haven't hit the linguistics. And I beg to differ. And in fact, now, especially with the Alaska uprising of land, that we're starting to get closer to some of these temporal markers that have been around for a number of years.
So I'm sure it's how you look at it, but if you really put everything together, it's 2 and 2 makes 4. How can you go wrong?
Yes, and then in this case, we're becoming more and more accurate as we go forward. The linguistic structures are unfortunately becoming frequently more diverse and diffuse, though.
Yeah, I wanted to bring something up. You were talking about the Internet, and we all know that there are some changes